Good afternoon. Hello, everybody, wherever you are. We are here today, and today is the fourth edition of Constitution Laws and You. Once again, we have with us Councillor Arthur Tamabayo Johnson. I will call him prospective Chief Justice. I mean, this is the man who making news in Liberia today. Well, the law is not intended for everybody, and so not that it's not intended for everybody, but everybody cannot be lawyers. That's what I meant to say. Well, the issue is the Constitution of Liberia. We are involved in discussing the Liberian Constitution. You are aware Article 10 of the Liberian Constitution says the government of Liberia is responsible to distribute the Constitution and to teach the Constitution to all schools within the Republic of Liberia. So at 2A Radio, we took charge of that and we trying to do our best we can to help to explain what the Constitution says. Arthur Tamabai Justin, welcome to 2A Radio once again.
Thank you, Jensen. Thank you so much.
I mean, what's going on? What's going on in Liberia?
Well, Liberia is calm. It's just that, Liberia is filled with tension of political debates, arguments here and there.
And I think I followed some stories. It's all about Arthur Tamabai Johnson. You representing some folks in the case. Although you're not going to discuss the case, but I think that's an issue, man. Everybody discussing that.
Oh yeah, it's a serious debate. One of the things that we have a problem in the country is people are not really aware that no matter how you accuse a person of a crime, he has.
Also, like, can you dress on the other side a little bit towards right?
Okay.
Right. That's you were positioned now. Thank you.
We have this problem. We have this problem in our country. Even in some civilized societies, people have problems with legal representation to persons who are accused of criminal activities. And that's why you said the teaching of the Constitution is very important. There are some of those who, in fact, are educated. Some are even college graduates, master's degree graduates, master's degree holders, who, in fact, with a notion that legal representation is a taboo, it shouldn't be done. In fact, Liberia had reached, you talked about me being the subject of debate around in Monrovia today. The argument had been that I think what they're trying to say is that Arthur Johnson, before you take any case, now you must call the public and ask and say, look, I'm trying to take the case. Please approve whether I can take the case, So that's the kind of problem we have in the country. People are functionally, we have this functional illiterate society. People who act that they are educated, but they know nothing. We have this kind of problem. That what we call the value conflict. And so we will not stop. We will try to, most of the time, make ourselves available to educate people on the issues of the law. Even though it's not free, but it's important we do that because most of our people are ignorant on what the law is, especially fundamental rights in terms of due process of law. Many persons, in fact, say, no, you're not supposed to follow the case. You're not even supposed to represent the person. Oh, you that we know you can't represent. I'm a criminal lawyer. I don't know why people understand what they call a criminal lawyer from the day we started our practice of law. So this is the dilemma. This is the Liberians' dilemma. In fact, even lawyers are misleading. Lawyers are even misleading non-lawyers who are in politics and propaganda. You even tell them and say, nobody, man, we're not supposed to even take their case. You'll not believe it. They will tell you that.
I mean, that would be a deceptive thing for any lawyer to say.
No, they're doing that.
Lawyer should not go into a case. It doesn't matter what the case is, the facts of the case is. I think everybody all are aware of the fundamental right of due process, the right to everyone to be accorded lawyer, and the justice system doesn't end at the police station. You don't just arrest somebody and you think you're going to throw them behind bars without
you don't know that.
Following due
process. I was surprised there was somebody I represented way back in the Ellens regime. He called me, he went and sent me a message and called me that, why should you represent the kind of people? I said, well, let me ask you. The time they accused you for corruption during the Ellens regime, and I represented you. So I shouldn't have represented you because you were corrupt, or they said you were corrupt. This is the problem of Liberia. But I think the reason is politics have clouded the judgment of people. That's the reason.
And it is unfortunate. Everybody should be given their right before the law. I mean, it doesn't matter. Someone could be accused, or somebody could even be seen killing. but the purpose of the law is to allow everybody to have access to justice. So, as a lawyer, that's what you are trained for. You could represent anybody who probably went against me or any member of my family. It doesn't mean that even as being loyal, it doesn't mean that I'm going to sit and don't realize that the adversary system allows lawyers to represent parties within the court. So that we're following the case, and we are following. We know why some of the arguments are all coming about. But today is a different issue. It's not about the case in court. We are here to study the Liberian Constitution, or to explain the Constitution of Liberia. There will come a time we might take on this platform. We will take our time to look at some of the means at which justices or the judges can go into discussing matters relating to the Constitution, laws, and of course the facts that come from the citizenry or the people. But today we have interest in looking at fundamental rights. And let me say the fundamental right is a huge segment within the Constitution of Liberia. So we're not going to take today to start and conclude discussion on the fundamental rights. Okay, so Atta, today what we have here is there are basic rights within the Constitution. All right, and today we are discussing from chapter 3, but from article 11 to 16. So basic rights that are cataloged or that are written in the Constitution are what we're going to be discussing. So, Ato, what can you say about fundamental rights? Why the framers thought to enumerate basic rights of the citizens and instruct that in the Constitution of Liberia? Do we need to know our rights under the Constitution of Liberia?
Thank you, Johnson. The reason you hear fundamental rights considered as some of them we say inalienable rights,
Right.
it all stems from the social contract.
Mm-hmm.
The students of political science know what they talk about when they mean by what they know what it means when they talk about the social contract. Under the social contract theory, they say when you have a society where there is no control, there is no body or structure responsible for social control,
Mm-hmm.
then everybody will be fighting for survival. So survival becomes the fittest as a rule or as a term rule.
Okay.
So in order to avoid that, because only the strong will survive. Like take for example, you put about 20 men in a room and you keep them for more than 3-4 days without food. If you chunk a bread in there, the only person who will eat that bread is the man who has the strength to fight and overpower all the other guys to take it. So that is how society is. Under the social contract, the idea of social contract came about. It said, look, when you have a society, let's agree you have a society where there is no law and order, nobody is bound by any rule of law. So only the mightier will be able to survive. You will see that
Okay.
society will be a disaster. So the
So,
best thing to do
uh-huh.
is to have all of us coming together, surrender our rights,
Mhm.
and then we give them to particular individuals or institutions to protect us in return. That when we give them these responsibilities, in the event that they are unable to perform these responsibilities under that agreement, we have the right also to change the structure of government or the system of government and the individuals in power and replace them with new group of officers or persons that will be able to carry on these projects. But all of that, the essence for which they have been established, they have been created, or the institutions, are to protect basic fundamental, the right to live, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and the right to property.
Okay.
That those are the major rights that have been given to those institutions that we call government to protect. So
So
that is
from,
why so
from
they
from
come from that something from that contract.
okay. So from what I'm hearing from you, and from what we have read, suggests that these fundamental rights are guaranteed to all citizens and should be applied without discrimination.
That's correct. That's correct. because the government is under the under the social contract theory. The government is a servant to the people,
Okay. Right.
and the employers of the government are the people. That is why, you see, for this reason, the people establish, many countries establish the kind of system they have. For us, we have what we call the tripartite system. And when we say the tripartite system, we are talking about a system, a governmental structure that has three major components. And these three major components, the first branch is the legislature. The legislature, the reason we say the first branch as legislature means the people.
Yeah.
So that in the absence of the people, there will be no state, there will be no government, because the people make up the government. So it will be the first branch of government. Then you have what we call the executive, the individuals that the people had an agreement with to be responsible to do certain things. And so they put them into power. Then the third is the judiciary. So under the tripartite system, the three structures of government are responsible to do certain things. They have responsibilities to carry out, and they will coordinate and they will interact with one another. They will keep checks on one another, so that when one is given a particular function and he is performing, there is a way that the other two branches can call him to, or call that particular branch to check. That's what we call the principles of checks and balances and separations of powers and coordinations and what have you. So that's what happened. So when they decided that, they made in their agreement and said, look, there are certain things that the government that comes into play should not play with, because that's a basic essence for which the government is established. And that those things that the government must be under responsibility to protect will be what we call fundamental rights, inalienable rights, rights that you cannot deny from the very existence, right, that go to the very existence of a human being. That is the right to live, liberty, happiness, to own property.
Right.
These rights are basic and fundamental, and government under the world, all over the world, I mean, are under governments under all over the world are under obligation to make sure they protect these rights. And so, in our constitution, we broke those rights into different segments that we call fundamental rights.
Okay.
Whenever any institution or government, it can be the judiciary, it can be the executive, it can be the legislature, when they violate any of those rights, you have to go to the particular branch of government that will keep a check on that particular branch or other branch of government that violated the right. Those are the rights we are talking about, fundamental.
Okay. So there are issues, the Constitution, and if we can go directly to some of the issues in the Constitution, uh, before we talk about the listing of the fundamental rights, what how are fundamental rights, guarantee, when the Constitution says there are fundamental rights and they are guaranteed, um, can the executive, for any reason violate the Constitution, the fundamental right, any of the fundamental right? Can the judiciary, when the Constitution says it is guaranteed, uh, the common person, what will you say to them if it says
It means
uh-huh,
that the Constitution protects those rights,
okay,
and that any government any government or any branch of government that is for performing, if that institution violates any of those rights, the citizens have the right to call that particular party or that particular structure of government to check. For example, if, for instance, the executive branch of government arbitrarily arrests you
okay,
and cannot take you to court, restrain your liberty without any justifiable reason, that's your fundamental right that have been denied. You have your rights under the Constitution to take that particular institution to court. For example, let's go to the level of the police. As simple.
okay, right,
If the police arrest you without a warrant,
okay,
without any probable cause, without also reason to believe that indeed a crime was committed in the police officer's presence, you have the right as an individual to proceed to court. And then when you proceed to court, you can ask the court
Okay.
to
So,
correct
so
the wrongful conduct of the police agency.
okay. So in Article 11, if we can look at the very opening paragraph, there it says all persons are born equally free and independent and have certain natural, inherent, and inalienable rights,
All
among
right.
which are the right of enjoying and defending life and liberty. I love that. Why you think among all of the right they emphasize the right to enjoy life and liberty?
Because life without life, you will not exist.
So true.
The freedom of movement, you will
Hmm.
not exist.
Right.
So it's not only government that is restricted, or even any individual who
Okay.
restricts the movement of other people by your actions and conduct, that person, the law has the right, the person has the right to call you to book and check. That's why it's saying where your to some extent when it comes to individuals, where your rights stop,
Right.
another man's rights begins. Rights, let's say begin. So if you are exercising your right to liberty and movement, that right and liberty of movement that you are exercising should not be used to infringe on the rights of others. That's one. Two, governments in the world that are created for our constitution, our government, our Liberian governments that have been created and have been functioning over the years from the day of the establishment of this country. They are under obligation to treat everybody equal.
Right.
That's one. You cannot say they men are first class or they men are second class. You can't do that. And that you don't have to expressly say that, but by your conduct in manner and forms, it means that you are violating other people's rights. Let's say, for example, I stand on the road and I block the road. I say you are not passing. I say no car passing here because I have a personal issue. That's a violation of other people's rights. You are not authorized to do that. Now, we're talking about liberty, the right to
Right.
liberty
Hmm.
and movement. And then there are those rights because these are kind of rights that you are born with.
After we will come down to naming those right, but I see some very forceful words here. In the very first thing, we don't have much time, and as I said, we're not going to go into all of these right today, but we will definitely do what we can to explain from Article 11 to 16, talking about these fundamental rights. You talk about equality. Equality. There's an issue of gender. There's issue of creed. There's issue of belief. There's issue of political party, issue of origin, and issue of race. So
Correct.
this basic equality, it means don't violate the fundamental rights because somebody is a woman, somebody is a man, somebody is bisexual, somebody um, is worshiping Jesus Christ, somebody is worshiping Muhammad, and somebody is a member of the Unity Party, the CDC, the ANC, or almost all of the political parties. Somebody has an origin. That means what? Maybe the person just from the village, somebody's race. And this fundamental engagement, equality, I'm thinking why the framers um, said it and why should any government be in violation of these fundamental rights that for which equality is demanded of those who are exercising particular power, those who are in public offices.
Our constitution is informed by the pages of Liberian history and the experiences we had.
Okay.
The founding of Liberia did not actually appreciate these rights for certain individuals. And that has to do with the indigenous, the natives,
Okay.
even the American Liberians elite among themselves. When even among themselves, when I say among themselves, the settlers, when they came, they themselves felt that the domestic slaves that were free felt superior more than the plantation slaves that were free.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, the mulattoes and the dark skin. The mulattoes, most of them came from the the slave background where they were domestic slaves serving the slave masters in the United States,
Mm.
especially the women. And so these slave masters on their farms cohabited with these black slave women and born children. These children became mulattoes, so they have to be treated, the slave masters' children. And so when all of these people were free from America and they came down, these children fell like Joseph Jenkins Rapport and all of them, John
So
Russell, then all
as
these
you
guys.
talk about slavery, Article 12 specifically made mention of slavery, and it says no person shall be held in slavery or forced labor. Are there forced labor going on in Liberia or within the republic as a whole? None shall any citizen of Liberia, none any person resident therein deal in slaves or slavery or subject any other person to forced labor.
You see, the new argument now in Liberia, about the new argument in the world
Mhm,
in terms of international crime and justice.
mhm.
Slave labor is not only about keeping somebody in jail and then telling them to go and work. Liberia is not really doing that again, but it's in another form now. That's why it's taking different form because the world is changing. Let's take for example, if you have people like what you have somebody, maybe you brought them in the country and they're working for you, you have their passport, they don't go anywhere, and you pay them specific amounts, they're not supposed to go anywhere, they will work for you for a specific period of time.
Mm.
That's a form of slave labor. I think the Liberian government is working with the international community to deal with that. But any area, any part of our country that we practice that either by a foreigner or a business entity of that nature, obviously then of course that's slave labor. Okay, that's
Suppose
forced
somebody
labor.
work for a, let's say, a factory or a store down water side, and probably an Indian, Lebanese, or Liberian business person, and this person is not well taken care of, is not paid well. Could that be considered as, you know, forced labor? Maybe.
I think forced labor is where the person has no choice of taking a decision for the job.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you tell them that you will work and this is what I will pay you, even
Right.
though they disagree on the payment.
Mhm.
That's a form of slave labor,
Okay.
forced labor. I mean. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a form of modern slavery. That was
Okay.
because the international community in the international cycle.
What's about children? Maybe children under the age of 17, or no, like
That's
just like
correct.
say, Liberia is an undeveloped country. You have children under age that are selling, day and night. Is that considered as forced labor?
Of course, that is wrong. In fact, certain time the government of Liberia used to get in the streets and arrest, collect these children, go to the parents,
Right.
and intervene. Yeah, I think it been well done, but still, this is Africa, and our culture is that many of us used to making sure people used to making sure their children work for them because it's still happening in Liberia. And one reason could be the social economic condition of the day. But not everybody really is doing that. It's based on your economic strength, but many parents don't do that. But it is happening because we sometimes see children selling in the streets. Even like some of us those days when we were going to school, that's what we used to do. You go, you sell, but now our parents now you gotta go sell on the streets because you want to pay your own school fee, you want to pay your school fees in it, you get their money and work. But it's a form of a child is not really required to work under the international convention. So these are things that happen in our society and all over the world. Most of the places in the world underdeveloped, but you find that mostly in the underdeveloped societies. And the government of Liberia, I have observed that they've been working on that, but I don't know how far they have gone. But I used to see it, but I don't know so far how far now. So it's a
On
violation of the Constitution.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
That's true because the fact that it's written under the Constitution that there should be no forced labor, that means
yeah.
and this is guaranteed. So then, if a child is seen in the street, probably at the age, lower than 17 years of age, um, I'm wondering really, can government enforce this constitutional provision to stop children under age from selling? Is it possible?
To stop them completely.
Yeah, to say, well, the Constitution does not permit, like in America here, whether you reach 17, people, in fact, children at the age of 16, some of them are fighting, they want to go and work. And some of them, the parent will say, well, they know for sure working. In fact, there's no business, there's no or employer in the United States that will employ someone under age. So if you saw, for example, particularly so people below the age of 14, you see that 12-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old child selling early in the morning hour instead of a child being in school. I'm wondering, can government enforce this provision of the Constitution?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Stressing to be frank,
Uh-huh.
a child is not required to work because we signed the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child.
Mm.
And more besides, the child has certain specific rights. But one of the problems we have, in fact, we have not had, we don't have a full developed juvenile justice system. The same way we have the criminal justice system is
Right.
how we should have the juvenile justice system. The
Okay.
way you have the police, you have the court, and you have the corrections, meaning the prison institution. You should have a system also the same, but for the children. That is,
Mm.
the police have a juvenile justice system, a juvenile justice component. That is the women and children protection area, okay, the child protection area. That's one of the first components in the police. Then you have the juvenile code. The juvenile code needs to be fully developed. From the juvenile code, then you have what we call the juvenile correctional center and treatment. We don't have
Okay.
that in Liberia. We don't have that in Liberia. We don't have a system where when a child commits a crime, that is not a crime because under the Convention of the Rights of the Child, when a child commits a crime,
Right.
that child is not cannot be called a criminal or a criminal suspect. There is a specific name for the child. I'm just telling you the extent of the protection of the child under the
Okay.
United Nations Convention. They call the child a delinquent or a
Yeah.
wall. Now, the reason they call the child a delinquent is because a delinquent is only intended not to allow the child to be stigmatized, meaning to stain the character of the child so that tomorrow it won't affect them. So, because the reason is the earlier a child gets exposed to the criminal justice system or the juvenile justice system,
Mm.
the more vulnerable the child is in their adulthood to get involved into criminal behavior or recidivism. Recidivism means somebody repeatedly committing crimes.
Okay.
Okay, they charge you, they say, okay, they convict you, you serve your time, you come back, you commit the same crime. So the juvenile justice system needs to be developed in Liberia as one of the major components, because a child is not regarded as responsible for his criminal act until that child had reached a legal statutory age as an adult under the juvenile justice system. A child can be accused of a crime, but that child suffers no punishment as an adult criminal. What is only intended that the justice system should do is the justice system should give that child protection, care, and comfort in order to identify what the problems of the child are so that they can be able to solve them. That is why crimes that a child committed during their childhood, when the person becomes an adult, you cannot use that record against them in the future. They are sealed and they're regarded as confidential. So there is a need also to develop the juvenile justice system in Liberia. The juvenile justice system is not fully developed to be very functional. Let's take, for example, we have a situation, my experience in the criminal justice system, especially in criminal courts. We have a situation where children can commit crimes, and when children commit crimes, they say, oh, the men are child, so they can be punished. No, they are not saying the child cannot be punished, or they are saying the child can be punished. No, but you can't take that child and send that child back into the community under the juvenile justice system. Like, for instance, a child who takes a gun and shoots another person, that child cannot just go home. That
Right.
child will be undergoing a serious psychological problem. And so the child needs to go somewhere for treatment and counseling. And it's going to take a long time. It's going to take a long time.
That's so when it comes to children, I think I would agree with you that those institutions that were created, that I think the health and child welfare, I think the children affairs should be on the Ministry of Health. right? So these people should be more serious to look at some of these critical provisions of the Constitution and other laws to make sure that they begin to look at the welfare, the well-being of children, and follow the example of other developed world. I mean, you can't keep saying, "Oh, we are a third world country. Oh, we don't have the means. We don't do this." You set up the structure so that you can begin to do something. But I want us to look at this aspect of academic freedom. Academic freedom is one of the fundamental rights.
Yeah.
Do we allow ourselves to enjoy academic freedom? Is Liberia having academic freedom?
Well, academic
Firstly,
freedom, that
what is academic freedom? If I may ask, you know,
academic freedom, the right to learn, the right to read any book, any
right?
subject, the right to give you the opportunity to go and read any, to read about any ideology,
Hmm.
communism, socialism, to read the rudimentaries of all of these structures and institutions, the right to read about democracy, authoritarianism, all of these kind of concepts and ideologies that you have, that we have in the world. The man must have the right, when he wants to read about them, you must not stop in and say, look, you must not say, look, you can't read a particular book. And so it extends in our schools. You can say, only the particular book should be taught, and every person, nobody must discuss the other books in school. No, you can't do
Right.
that. Yeah,
I
people
think
must have the right to freedom.
I do agree with you, Ato, because sometimes when people express themselves, sometimes it become offensive to some officials. So
Of course.
this freedom, you know, allow people to express their ideas freely without any risk, without any threat. And I think to get this enumerated as one of those basic rights, I think government need to respect that. I'm wondering how professors, and students can work in line with these provisions. Do we need a special policy guideline for academic activities in Liberia, to which some of those basic fundamental rights will be spelled out? Scholars should respect the expressions of students without fear or favor, and those who do that should not be, sanctioned. Do we need policy? Is there any educational policy that emphasizes on the freedom, academic freedom, to be enjoyed by everyone within the land?
No, Liberia, from my years of teaching in most of in schools, I taught at the university for almost 8 to 9 years before I resigned and left and went back to Zion.
Hmm.
And this is my 23 years teaching criminal justice, corrections, criminology, criminal law, constitutional law, criminal investigation, criminalistics, forensic criminal investigation. But what I observe is that we don't have those policies. First of all, let me call it spade a spade.
Hmm.
Liberia is not a tolerant society, even though we have found laws in the constitution. We get found laws here.
Hmm.
But Liberia is not a tolerant society. Not all professors, besides professors, but Liberia is not, even in our political and democratic system. In Liberia now, there are certain persons who feel that they are more Liberian than you. There are certain persons who feel that when you speak on a particular subject as to your views, they have serious reaction to that, because you shouldn't say that, because they feel they are more Liberian than you. You are sub-Liberian. That is the kind of thing we have in Liberia. So there is a need for a tolerant society. And I think it starts from the level of the government and all the way down. So there's a need for policy. There is a need for policy which spread interest in the schools. First of all, you got to get rid of the idea of bullying, because that's some of the things other countries can do. Okay, you get rid of bullying, where children go to school, you have their friends bullying them and misbehaving on them. So some of these children cannot express themselves, they feel intimidated. Professors, somebody is teaching in school and a student asks a question, you say, my man, I'm not here to answer that question. You don't ask that question again. You ask that question again, I'll pull you out. If the student is asking the question in a respectful manner, not to disrespect you, he's not disrespecting you, not insulting you, but he's expressing his view and he's frank about it, I don't think the instructor or the professor has the right Because, like for me, one of the things I always told my students when I'm teaching criminal justice or even criminology that has to do with all of the theories of criminology, of crimes, I always told them, I said, look, these are the theories about the law. These are the theories about what constitutes criminal behavior. What are the factors responsible for crime in society? I explain to them. I tell them what it is. There are various factors, the scientific study of crime. But I always told them, I say, you have the right to disagree with this theory.
Fine, and I think that's the point I was driving at, because if you
Mm.
have professors or teachers, who probably do not want to engage students in intellectual debate without students being afraid that they can be censored, or they could be stopped, or they could be punished, so I think the reason we discuss this is for, even if there's any professor listening to us, so they will realize that the academic freedom that is guaranteed in the Constitution should be enjoyed. Teachers and students' engagement in intellectual debate doesn't necessarily mean that students, debating with a teacher, that means that teacher doesn't know what he's doing. But the fact
No,
that there is freedom, I think that's important to emphasize.
that's correct. And in fact, Jensen, the teacher, I love a class that is very engaging
Okay,
because then the students will keep you on your toes.
right, right.
But I think one of the reasons too is that most of our students are very lazy. The only thing most of them know is to get on Facebook to type things and type one or two things, but they're lazy. They don't read. And that is
Right.
one of the major deficiencies. Only very few students. That's there because I'm in the teaching profession, so I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the major deficiencies.
Okay.
In fact, it goes down to the grade school. That's why you see, for me, I used to teach the 400 level courses at the level of the Criminal Justice College. But what I've decided doing at Jensen, I decided coming down to 100, the 100 the introductory courses, because
Mhm.
I observed that most of our students that are coming from out of high school, only one of them can actually read and comprehend, who can write, who can express themselves, who speak standard English, who will speak well, who, in fact, when you tell them go and do the assignment, they'll be willing to do the assignment. So I decided myself to go down there to start with the 100 or 101 level courses so that you can build them up. Because if you don't do that, they will come to 400 level, they can't even read a research paper, they can't even read, you can't even read a 10 paper, they can't even read a 15 sentence. That's the problem we have in Liberia.
Okay,
That's the
that's good.
problem.
That's good. I thought we
Yeah.
have few more rights to look at here, and one of those rights that I want us to look at right now is, I think we talk about it, is freedom, academic freedom. We talk about that. We have freedom of expression, and that, I think, the media will fit in here. All right, you should have freedom of expression. You have freedom of opinion, thought, and conscience. All of these are enumerated, within chapter 3 and the provisions below that. So do we have a free expression in Liberia? Do we have people who are tolerant in looking at freedom of opinion? Somebody say his little crazy stuff, whether he's right or wrong. Is there any reason why others should, get at that person?
Actually, the freedom of expression is being abused in Liberia.
Okay,
And the
what do you
reason
mean?
is because we have not taught the constitution.
Okay,
And another reason is that functional illiterates are in fact acting like they can interpret the constitution.
okay,
And like you made a statement here just now before we started.
hmm,
You said the law is for the lawyers,
yeah,
and you made a clarification.
yeah.
Actually, the law was not intended for non-lawyers to interpret.
And I agree with you. Even up to today's date, it doesn't mean because you read the Constitution literally. And I said to you, we will come to some of those things. People
Yeah,
discussing the Constitution, you want to know whether they are originalists, whether they are textualists. So
exactly.
it's not about just reading the Constitution and think you
That's
understand
correct.
it. Like what we're doing here, we are not, and maybe we'll take one of those sessions to look at the how the judges, lawyers, and justices, deal with the Constitution when there are a set of facts before them. How do they look at the set of facts, look at the law, and then be able to make analysis before reaching a conclusion and see, okay, this is a law I can rely on to go to court. But we will come to all of those things. We're taking our time because we know there are other people who are listening and who may not be loyal. But indeed, I agree with you, Councillor Johnson, that the Constitution, the laws, I read something this afternoon. Somebody was saying, oh, this case belonged to the magisterial court, not the magisterial court. This case belonged to the criminal code A, and all of those stuff. And this person was enumerating, the different courts. So I was asking myself, I said, I wonder if this person is understanding that
Whether
the
he knows the law,
government, the
or whether
government
he's a lawyer.
lawyers make the decision to send this case to
No,
court
let me
from
make
the
that.
level
Let me
of the Liberia
yeah.
National Police.
Let me make that
So
clarification quick.
if a
Let me
lawyer
make
is coming in the case, he's not coming there to say, "Oh, this is not where it's supposed to be," or ordinary citizens saying, that case should not have gone to that court. That case should have gone to this other court." You are not the lawyer. You are not be certified. You didn't be in the law school, but you want to make decisions as to
This is
one
the
lawyer's
dilemma
people.
we have. Jensen, this is the dilemma we have. In Liberia, non-lawyers are trying to interpret the law. They say they know the law.
Hmm.
Some people who say they work with people who were lawyers before, so they say they know the law. There is nowhere when police takes a case, they get carried straight to criminal code A.
I agree.
The procedure is there. If you don't know, ask people teach you. But when you come on the podium and you say because you're opinion leader, you just get into, everybody in Liberia is a professional, my brother.
Everybody is a lawyer. Everybody is
everybody's a lawyer.
constitutionalist. Everybody is
Exactly.
accountant. Everybody,
They don't even know that
and
what you are saying. Somebody, they don't even know that you're talking about textualist, somebody who is a textualist or originalist or a
right.
pragmatist or a prudential, somebody who believes in prudential, or they don't know the whole kind of way of interpretation of the Constitution.
Right,
So I think that's a high level articulation of the law that will not be good for the audience. I think that is only good for lawyers.
I agree with you. That's why, what I've said, the reason I said that, and maybe we'll take a session, is that, on this kind of forum, you have different listeners.
Okay.
We will do all that we can. That's why we just try to read the what we call the fixed meaning. I think that's what the ordinary people want to rely on. Oh, the Constitution says, okay, John is coming. So it means John is just coming, nothing beyond that.
And not true. John is not coming.
Where is John coming from? What is the reason why John is moving around?
Why John coming?
John in fight? You want to look at what kind of mood is John in when he's decided to leave from one point A to point B. So lawyers will want to ask all of those questions, but the ordinary person just want to read. Okay, they say John is coming, so I'm waiting for John because John is coming. All right, but that's not what we're doing here. All right, but that was expression, and I think I'm watching the time too. Let's look at the freedom of religion. Why don't we have official religion? Why don't we have, for example, why Liberia can take one particular religion and say, "Oh, this is the religion for this country," like for some like these Islamic nations, they say you can't practice any other thing there besides, Islam. Why don't we? Why is religion so guaranteed that everybody can do their own low way of worshiping?
You see, one of the reasons the Constitution is clear on that is that when you start having a state religion, because you see the American society when they established the American state, that the last time we were talking something like that, bulk of the guys who the founding fathers were conservative Christians in America, bulk of them. You look at Jefferson, in fact, but Jefferson came from a background to the extent he was a conservative Christian and a Baptist member, but he was one of those who said, "Why it is true, I hold so dearly to my God and my religion. We should not allow Christianity or the church to be in government. Let the church be separated from the government, because in the state you have so many people." It does not mean that indeed he's an atheist. That's what he was saying. Yeah. The reason is because they were trying to form a union they were building on the experiences that they had in Great Britain, that caused for the Protestants, the Anglo-Saxon Protestants, to leave Great Britain. So for this reason, everything you see the Americans doing, they built it from the experience they had in Great Britain. And so we just copy direct from them. The actual, so if you look in there, we have this crisis of identity.
Okay.
like the last time I told you, in our Constitution, in our Declaration of Independence, not even the Constitution, but the Declaration of Independence of Liberia,
Right.
when the Fremonts got through it and at the level of the convention, in that Declaration of Independence, they actually identified that the establishment of the Liberian state is based on the pillar of Christianity.
Right.
That is what they did. It's documented. That one is documentary evidence.
Mm-hmm.
So the new constitution says, look, we shouldn't do that. What we do is that let everybody be having their right to freedom, because the issue of religion is
Right.
an issue of choice. The issue of faith is not something you can compare somebody to have faith. So let's have it that who want to serve God, let them serve God.
Right.
And so let it be a secular. So you can't compare and force people to serve God, but they have their own judgment to face God tomorrow, and they will account for it to their God.
Okay.
Like what it is. So that is why the 1986 Constitution was trying to cue from the period before election, before the independence of Liberia.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think
So,
and I think your emphasis is well taken, because Liberia has different kinds of people, and by the preamble, so we the people. So to be
yeah.
looking at the people, you must have, and you're talking about expression, free expression. It means you should be looking at. You cannot go about creating, a special one particular kind of religion, an official religion that Liberian can worship. So the freedom of thought, the freedom of opinion, and of the conscience. I mean, all of those things, when they are all enshrined in the Constitution, there's no way you can go about. You can have lawmakers
Right.
now passing a bill that say, what, Liberia is a Christian state, or Liberia is an Islamic state. I think when you do that, I mean, you don't want peace in the country. So
Yeah. It's
everybody should have the right to
because
worship.
I'm not cutting you up, Jensen.
Yeah.
I'm not cutting you up.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes people can doubt it, but certain time in Liberia during the crisis,
Yeah.
those of us that were a little bit big enough when the crisis came, the war took the tribal and religious strength.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's a hard fight. It's a hard fight. In
Yeah.
fact, I was looking at the issue of ethnicity. People fought
Yeah.
war, the civil war, and people killed people because of that. Somebody is a crown man. Because there was a crown president, people decided, hey, because Doe was crown, it's not every crown person that will enjoy on a Doe government. I mean, just
Of
look
course,
at it
but
from
even
a
for me in bombing, when during the first ceasefire, when they just killed President Doe, the late President Doe, September 9, they displayed the body to how they call it, man, Allen Clinic.
Yeah, Simple,
Allen Clinic.
Yeah.
Yeah, small children at that time. Although I'm not really small, but I was big because I was in the 10th grade when the war came. We went there, we saw it. I felt so bad, we all left from there. My father sent me, he told me to go for my sister in bombing. And when I went, the road closed. I almost got killed by my own countrymen, Gizi man. The only thing Jensen that blessed me is because I could speak Gizi.
Okay.
That the only thing blessed me.
When the war started, I had some friends, and I just throw in a few words. And some friends said, "Oh, we are going to the interior." I said, "No. I mean, I don't speak good English, but people hearing me, they will think, say, oh, they mad that one of those, quote unquote people and all of those stuff, and I could get killed." So I told the guy, I said, "You know what? When you come, anything happen, you will come here, we hear the news from the people in the environment, but I'm not living from here. This is where I will be." But that's an important issue. I mean, we cannot create a specific religion. You cannot have an official religion to say Liberia is this state, this kind of a religion. We practice this kind of religion. Liberia was founded on Christian principle, although, as you said, it's written, not because we say it, but the reality is we the people, constitute, I mean, the population of the country. So you can't come and say, okay, the people, even those who don't have religion, you cannot deny them their existence. When you do that, I mean,
you can't force them to worship.
Fine.
But everybody will turn to God.
Very good. Very good. So let's look at the issue of state media. There's this ELBC. Maybe you're not in the media. I wouldn't drag it too much into that. But there's the constitution call for a state media, and I think that's the backdrop for which ELBC was created or was established. Do you believe in the idea where there should be one big radio station that cater to the country, and that media institution should not be biased? It should not be for the purpose of a government, an existing government, but should be there as
Yeah,
an independent state media.
yeah, I think Jensen, what really the framers were thinking, yeah, they were not really thinking that Liberia will be like this today, that there will
Okay.
be people can open radio stations all over. You know, those
Right,
everybody
right,
the only thing we knew that ERBC and ERWA,
right.
you know.
Yeah.
So it's like
I
yeah,
would think honestly the constitution having provided this, the need for a state media. Until you amend this constitution, there's a need for an independent state media. And when you have an independent state media, that independent state media being funded by the people's money, that independent state media must be independent, not work at the will and pleasure of a government or will and pleasure of officials of the government. And I think
yeah,
this is where we
to
have a
some
problem.
extent, but to some extent, but Jensen,
Mhm.
when it comes to national security,
Yeah.
when it comes to national security, essence of state media is to continually promulgate the domestic and foreign policy of the government.
Not
Because let me
necessarily,
give you one
though.
example. You see the VOA.
Mhm.
Let just follow like the VOA.
Yeah.
Why is true the VOA, the Voice of America, will project and they will give the news, the way they call always they will always express the policy of the United States government.
I,
Because
th- I think the primary reason we, and I think this is a crucial point, state media, is like if you have, like for example, ERBC right now, ERBC without saying anything, there are certain things they will not air. And in fact, those who are managing ERBC, we hope some of them will be listening to us. You cannot run ERBC. ERBC, as far as we're concerned, was established on the basis of this. This is a foundational issue for
yes,
the existence of ERBC. All
yeah,
right.
yeah.
So ERBC should be a media institution.
No matter the
Right.
man's argument against the government, he must have the opportunity to go to ERBC.
Very good. Very good.
But I
So
think they can
everyone
allow
in the
now.
country must have an opportunity to be heard.
But I
Whether
think
you're from
ERBC
political
allows that.
party
Though.
A, B, or C, as long as you
Jensen,
have a state media, yeah.
I think the guys practice that though, because sometimes I can follow some individuals, some persons who have some counter views. They can go to ERBC, but
Mhm.
it's like because people, we get a lot of radio stations here now, so people can just choose not to go to certain places. They go to
Right.
the other radio stations that
Yeah.
favor them. But
But
ERBC, I
it is
don't
the
think they have
responsibility.
control.
This is it. The responsibility of the government and not the government of ERBC is to educate the people sufficiently
Correct,
to
correct.
realize that that is a state media institution. Is
That's
not
correct.
for George Weah, is not for any other government to come and will be independent continuously. And
That's
people
correct.
appointed to those positions must not be appointed on the basis of partisanship or
That's
people
correct.
who the people
You,
know
you,
that are
you,
appointed
you
person is going to train the,
I,
that's what we're
yeah,
talking about. Yeah.
yeah. What you talking about? Just exactly. You are talking about the issue of governance and participation.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that people must be even in terms of employment, in terms of appointment, let appointment be based on the qualification of the people. Bring people in who are qualified. They will help you. For me, Jensen, that one of the things for me, I don't know, but for me, I love to be criticized
Right. Right.
because when somebody is telling me and critiquing me, I'm building right upon it.
Right. Right.
Yeah, once you start you critiquing me and listening to you, I'm building right upon it. I'm correcting it right there.
I like that, Arthur, and that's the perfect way. I had a conversation with one of my friends, and that's nothing to emphasize it so strongly. And people sometimes when like I always tell people, and you put it rightly, if you are being criticized or you put out few words out there and somebody feel they have superior knowledge, all you do state your knowledge, do it in a very decent way, and let us join the debate.
That's it.
Let's take the
Tolerance.
insult out. Tolerant, right? That's
Yeah,
the word.
tolerance.
And then at
Tolerance.
the end of the day,
Here are the issues.
yes, you can get people involved. You can get people educated, and the society can
Jensen,
get better.
and this is what is happening, and because of this, it's actually affecting our country, Jensen. The reason is, who told you we don't have intellectuals here? We got so many intellectuals, but they are just quiet. Professionals, they are just quiet and silent. You know why?
Mhm.
Nobody wants to be abused by a little child.
I agree, but you see, I think I told you, and I told a few other persons before.
And when we man that, if we man that, then we will not have any reason to tell our children 20 years from now.
That's so
The
true.
honor obligation here.
Very
Nobody
well.
is more Liberian than anybody.
That's so
that
true.
you can say you're not supposed to say this, you're not supposed to make this statement, you're not supposed to do this. Nobody
Right.
is more Liberian than their friend.
That's true. That's true.
And
And
that's
this
what
is
the
what
Constitution is saying.
that's true. And this is where I come in, Arthur. Let us even us here. It just don't have anything to do. I have my own life to pursue. So I have my own challenges. So if for any reason I want to do things, we do it. But society, somebody will say, "Oh, Jason,
Exactly.
you in America? Why you want to be talking about Liberia? When Liberia is better, the American people taxpayer money will be saved." So don't
Because
sit
Jensen,
there. Yeah. So don't sit there and say, "Well, you're going to be quiet." You have a right for the Constitution guarantee your free expression already. If somebody abuses that, of course, that person can be taken to court too.
the problem here is what is it? Jensen, let me tell you something. What is actually happening in Liberia is not politics.
That's so.
Yeah, it's not politics. What happening in Liberia is hatred, propaganda, and sentiments. It's not politics. Politics is you go on the issues.
Right.
You go on the issues. You don't cause people. You don't pay HM and get them $5 and say you go buy scratch car, you go. So many persons scared of that. It's just that for some all who come from student revolutionary background, we get thick skin. It can't move me. For me, it can't move me. I don't want to know. I don't know.
So, I agree with you, Arthur. And this is where we will continue to, these little discussions, can have some significant impact on the society. And so we think that Liberia can get better if all of you who are knowledgeable will begin to find an avenue, find a grouping, find the best place, the best platform that you think you can go and express yourself, that you will not be insulted. And this is where we are coming in. Two areas here, not because we know it all, but because we feel there's a need for an independent, ears. People must be able to say what they want to say freely, without being insulted, without being challenged to say, well, this person will take this action on this person. Let people express.
Let me just give you one example.
Even if you have an issue against two areas, and say, we will give the platform to say what you want to say.
Let me just give you one example. Like the first question you asked me, the intro question you asked me about what is happening in Liberia. Mm-hmm. Who told you say lawyers do not know? In fact, that's one of the reasons I just posted on my page this evening. Who tell you people don't know that all of the parties that demonstrated that were on the scene on July 26th were in violation of the law? They know. Intellectuals know. Politicians know. But they are afraid to speak because they want popularity, they want sentiments, some people don't want to be insulted. But the law is clear. That's why I posted it out today. Somebody asking, somebody they didn't want land, they want disrespect. We're sure the provision. Arthur Johnson will say the thing that's will happen, then he say he know the law that says it.
But that's what I told somebody. I said when this social media discussion, when we do this, a lawyer can even decide to say they're going to quote, but that's not the place of code law. You're talking to people. You're talking to
then you say I'm code law.
The population.
No, when the law, show the law now. How will I take the law from my head right away? You know, law that research.
But anyway, that's good. And again, the people have their right to express themselves. So the best way they can do it, let them go ahead and express themselves in whatever way they can. Okay, we talk about separation of state, church, and state. Time is fast spent. After we just will want you to say something on this, and then we probably ask you for your closing comment. We can read the constitutional provisions, but indeed, as I said, this discussion came from Article 11 to 16 under Chapter 3. All right, so primarily we're discussing the fundamental rights, and some of the rights we enumerated here for your attention, and you can ask a lawyer, if you have some issues and you want to know what your rights are, or if you feel that your right is being abused by either a government official, by a friend, by somebody. There are a lot of unenumerated rights. Maybe we'll take some time to look at those things. Like America talking about abortion. Abortion is not specifically stated in the Constitution of the United States, but is one of those unenumerated rights, and the Supreme Court have made some decision on those things. So there will come a time we might give you some of those unenumerated rights so that you can be aware of those things. But today we're talking about the enumerated rights, those fundamental rights that are clearly spelled out in the Constitution. And some of those laws are, like for example, the right to life, the right to free movement, the right to privacy. And we didn't emphasize that after I know time is fast spent. We have just one more minute, but we just summarize on that. state the right to state media, the right to expression, religion. There should be no one religion for Liberia. There is not like in the constitution, and the right to opinion, free expression and conscience. All of those things have some of the fundamental right we taught to emphasize today. So this is not to say you know it all. Don't listen to it and say, "Oh, I know the law." No, that's not the purpose for us here. We wanted to take interest, to read the law, to understand what people are discussing, ask questions, ask some intelligent questions. There will be people to listen to you. So, Arthur, what do you say when it comes to separation of church and state?
You can trace this concept of the principle of the Constitution to the Westphalian Treaty. Students
Okay.
of political science know that. It has to do with a war that was fought in Europe. And the people decided to, in order to hand this thing up and get it up, let's take the church. Because, the Roman Catholic Church ruled the world for almost 2,000 years. And when you read antiquity, you realize that there were a lot of things the people did, they extracted from the Bible during that period. The Romans did a lot of things because they were ruling the world. And so they realized that, look, the best way with all the revolutions in Europe and so on to get rid of them, let us have the church separated from the state. Because those days, it was the church that was directing the king to do what he must do. And so people felt that, so some people used to be killed when you violate and when you commit a sin. And so for this reason, certain time rebellion came about. So from the rest, it was feeling treated that ended the war in Europe. They
So
said, look,
would it be wrong if the state is funding or is giving money to some particular group of churches? Is it wrong?
I think it should be balanced if they want to do that.
Okay.
It should be balanced. If you try to do that, but when they say separated from the state, the church must not be in the function and the administration of government. That is what the Constitution is. That is, for instance, say, look, in here, this church will take a decision, will judge you on the basis of the Christian code or the Islamic code. It shouldn't be that way. That's what the Constitution is saying. When you commit a crime, you should not be treated under the Sharia law or under the ecclesiastical doctrine. Let him be treated according to the doctrines of government. Because when you do that, then it means that you are merged, the church and the state.
Okay.
And because it was one of the reasons for revolutions and battles that lasted for years in Europe. So new governments that came, modern governments that came up to form themselves into democracies, decided to stay away from these kind of things.
Okay.
So that's the reason they are not saying that, oh, you can say, oh, the church, okay, we're having a program, the person can pray in the church, they can know. It's not what really the intent is. Or when you're having a program and it's a government function, sometimes I like the way the Supreme Court can do it. Certain times they allow the imam to pray. And when the imam pray, you don't have to say that you pray like the imam, but you are a Christian, so you pray like you pray.
I remember during the transitional period was Bablet Dolly, right? Bablet Dolly. He demanded to.
Yeah, you are demanding that.
Yeah, he had his own state. He had a state.
That would be a very strong constitutional debate. Yeah, I remember that.
Okay. Anyway, time is fast spent, but we just want to end up with that separation of church and state. And I want to be my opinion on this is that when you are a religious body, it is expected of you to mirror government. It is expected of you to ensure that government works for the good of the people. So that separation of church and state, when you're taking money from the government, you don't have that independent mind, that independent opinion again. You are clouded by that, gift that you are taking from the government. So I would think that it doesn't mean government cannot, donate to the church. The church lives on donations. But if a particular group of people are just there, okay, you take money, give it to them. There's a lot of chaos going in the country. You don't hardly hear churches making a public statement because some of them have already, out of for whatever gift they have taken. You studied about gift after time is fast, but we can't go into that. What kind of gift somebody should receive and what have you. But importantly, today we are glad to have had you, Arthur. We ask you just for your closing comment. And then we wrap up for today until next week.
This is my closing comment. Jensen, I want to always, and I think I will be echoing it. The peace and stability of Liberia depends on the shoulders mainly of the press
Okay.
in Liberia.
Right.
The press. The press will be the one responsible to keep peace and stability next year election. In next year
Okay.
election. And they will be, if we're not careful, they might be the people responsible to bring chaos in this country. Because the way they take the narratives will determine the peace and stability of Liberia. We are urging them. They have ethical duties, like we, the lawyers, to factually report the cases and the issues because people follow them. That's
Right.
one. Two, there is a problem in this country with our legal system, with our legal issues, law is something. Non-lawyers get on the stage, they interpret, they say they're interpreting law. This is a serious problem that is going to affect this country. A man who has never voted in law school will get on Facebook, he goes there, he says he's talking the law with authority. He says he's a lawyer. And people believe what he says. So to close with this, and let me just close it quickly with the statement you were making that was somebody was saying the case, the people carry the code, the case you are now going to the magisterial court. No case leaves from the police. That is my last comment. No case leaves from the police and goes to criminal court right away. The case comes from the police with a charge sheet, it goes straight to the magisterial court that has jurisdiction over the subject. That magisterial court will only exercise jurisdiction by the issuance of the writ of arrest. When the writ of arrest is issued, it will serve it on the person that is being charged by the police. The judge will inform the people that have been charged their basic rights, fundamental rights under the law, and they must take advantage of them. Like our case yesterday, that's what happened. Then the lawyer in there, if there is a lawyer, will say, look, Your Honor, we have a bond here. We want this, we want that. The cases that the court cannot hear, that, in other words, the court does not have trial jurisdiction. Therefore, our case, it has to do with aggravated assault and criminal attempt to commit murder. These are the only two charges that the magisterial court does not have jurisdiction over. So what the magisterial court did yesterday and will do, and any court can do as a matter of law and procedure and precedence, they will divide those charges. The one that the magisterial court can try, the magisterial court will keep those charges there. The one that the magisterial court cannot try, like aggravated assault and criminal attempt to commit murder, the magisterial court will transfer those particular charges to the appropriate court. But before the magisterial court does that, the lawyer who represents the defendant has a right under the statute we call preliminary examination. The lawyer can say, look, Your Honor, don't send the case to the trial court yet because I feel that there is no probable cause for the charges to be instituted. In other words, you are telling the judge, say, the reason you issued a writ, there is no evidence behind it. So we want you to analyze the evidence to see whether you have any good legal reason to issue the writ for the major crime that the both must go to the other court. That is the right of the defendant. It is in what we call Chapter 12, Section 12. So that what happened. Now, so these are the problems. A non-lawyer came out and started explaining something and misinforming society. You see the dilemma we have?
Okay, I think these are issues for the Liberia National Bar to discuss, and they should know exactly what to do. I'm glad that you stated your opinion, but again, I want to say thank you so much for coming, and that was good of you for honoring our invitation. This is for those of you who just joining us. This is Constitution, Laws, and You, and we are glad to have had Arthur Johnson with us today. Thank you so much, Arthur, and until Wednesday. Have a pleasant day. We'll keep following the development as to what is going on in Liberia. And we want to know what's going on in Liberia. So once again, we want to say...
Jensen, I'm trying to introduce a mentor before I get leave. I'm so sorry for the interruption. I'm trying now this time, before I take any case, I want to do a survey with the Liberian people and say, oh, there is this case that came. You please tell me what I'm gonna take it or now. When they agree from the survey, then I will take the case.
Okay, then I will be the one who will analyze the survey result. Okay.
No, that's what they want me to do in Liberia now.
No, I mean that is outside the law. That's just a joke. Arthur is throwing out there. Everybody is entitled to a lawyer due process.
It's not a joke, Jensen. So, it's serious here. Educated people that we don't expect are saying, that I shouldn't take any case like that. I shouldn't have even taken this case. I'm telling you.
Yeah, we are certain that everything is going good. So we want to say once again, Arthur, we say thank you so much, and until then, bye.